Hello, welcome back to the David Watson podcast. Today I spoke with Karina on a subject I knew, and still I'm not sure how much I know. It's definitely been an education. And Karina is a surrogate mother. And basically, the Neanderthal behind the microphone did his best to discover what that is. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hello, Karina. Welcome to the David Watson podcast. And we'll just have a quick recap of a conversation that we just had about what are we going to talk about. And this is effectively, potentially, how can I put this? I'm the Neanderthal in the room and you're the surrogate mother. I don't have any children. And I'm genuinely fascinated by the concept of having children for other people. And honestly, I know nothing about it. So I don't even know where to start with a question.
Oh, yeah, no, that's totally okay. Definitely nice to meet you, David. And, it's something I love to chat about. Pregnancy and surrogacy, honestly, it's just absolutely amazing. I've had 4 kiddos myself. So my husband and I, we knew for a fact we were done with our own children. And, if my body would allow me to, the fact that I love pregnancy so much, the thought of carrying someone else's baby that's not related to me definitely appealed, and getting to help them grow their families. So, I've done that 3 times now and currently working towards a 4th.
So this is where it gets clumsy. How does it actually happen? And I don't just mean the kind of the conception bit. I mean, is it how do you even have a conversation about I'd like to be a surrogate mother?
Oh yeah. My own conversation was my mom updated me, of course, about people who can't have kids, and that kind of planted the seed when I was really young. So of course I told my husband actually when we were dating that I was like, if we ever get serious, ever have children, it's something that I know I just wanted to do if my body would ever allow it. Thought of somebody wanting a child and couldn't always upset me personally. So the transfer itself, of course, I'm not an IVF doctor, so I'm going to be coming right there with you. But, we are giving the hormones and everything to our bodies, either injections or patches or pills, throughout numerous weeks to get our body kind of mimicking where the embryo growth is. So, the scientists, and, they take the egg and sperm, create the embryos, do all this different genetic testing on it. So by the time we get to where they actually put the embryo inside of me, I am actually like 19 days pregnant, or at least my body thinks it's 19 days along, thanks to all these hormones to kind of make your body accept this embryo.
Right. Time out. My brain is now trying to catalogue what I've just heard. Okay, so you're right. So, and this is like straight up my complete lack of knowledge of what surrogacy is.
Yeah.
So it's not your baby in any way, shape or form.
No.
So you've not been impregnated by another person via artificial insemination or anything?
Yes, correct. So surrogacy, there's actually 2 different types. There's traditional surrogacy.
Okay, I didn't know of any type, but go on.
Yeah, it's using your own egg. And most states, most people don't do that. We do what's called gestational surrogacy, where we're just the oven. So you just place your bun in my oven and I'll grow it for the 10 months.
Okay. So okay. So I understand a little. Yeah, I understand it a bit better now. So the process has already happened. And like you were saying, for a process of hormone injections, that they basically bring you in line with the embryo and then inject the embryo inside you?
Yeah, so they do, insert just a little catheter into my uterus. It's not painful or anything. Uh-huh. And honestly, you lay down and within a few minutes, you're what's considered pregnant.
Okay. We live in an amazing world, don't we?
We really do, honestly. I can say, I get the amazing chance to, I actually work for a surrogacy agency as well, Surrogate First. And, I get to talk about this just really in depth with all these parents like yourself that have, no clue really about the process and everything. And it just still mind boggles me every single time I see a delivery, the fact that, we're helping all these babies that just otherwise wouldn't have become
Yeah.
babies. It's just so neat that where we are with science and everything nowadays.
So you carry the baby full term
Yes.
and then give birth naturally?
Yeah. So the parents usually, wherever they are, they could be international, they could be states away, they could be next door. They just end up flying in or coming close and, wait around for you to say it's time.
Yeah. So I'm guessing then. So my next question is the DNA.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming it has the DNA of the father and the mother,
Mm-hmm.
but it's connected to you. So does it get some of your DNA?
So, I have not done a bunch of research on this, to be honest. But to my understanding is yes, since we are intertwining a little bit, I believe we've got a tiny bit of each other, just a tiny amount for like years. And then it finally, I guess, kind of cycles out as blood cells develop and things like that. But, you do have the tiniest bit just because of the blood circulation with the placenta and everything.
Well, because that's what I'm thinking. I'm probably, there'll be doctors listening to this saying, you're right, he is a Neanderthal, isn't he? Because I'm thinking like my family tree and the DNA that connects me to all of my cousins from both sides of the family. And that's kind of watered down every generation, but the DNA exists. So I was just wondering how the process works, because obviously they're connected to you via the umbilical cord, and you kind of give them that nutrient for life as you go full term. Yes, so I was just interested as to, in 20 years, 30 years from now, if they were to do a DNA test, does your DNA still appear somewhere in the sequence?
Yeah, honestly, I think it does cycle itself out, but it is the DNA of the mother and the father.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean, because that bit, I was like, no, that makes sense, because the father is the father, the mother is the mother. To coin your term, you're the oven. You know what I mean? But you're not the ingredients for the bun.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's something too. I really want to learn more about myself. So, if I facts or anything, I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah, it's it's interesting, isn't it? It's a fascinating subject, and I'm guessing it's one of those people are people normally awkward about it?
Just from like a bystander?
Yeah, like if you're having a random conversation.
Oh, yes. Honestly, people come into it with multiple different, of course, personalities. Some are, that is amazing, you're just amazing for doing this, and just absolutely mind blown in appreciation. Other ones, kind of can be more standoffish, not really understanding, thinking you're giving up your baby, or thinking that we're going to be so bonded or we're monsters, for not wanting it. But I mean, you have these parents that you're talking to day in and day out, sending videos of the belly kicks and, talk about your cravings, and watching them, crying at ultrasound appointments and creating a nursery. You don't have the same kind of bond that you do with your own child, because you're so excited for these parents.
Yeah.
It's completely different, and some people just really don't understand it.
And also, I'm hypothesizing really. I'm assuming that, like you say, because you have 4 of your own children with your husband, and there's an emotional bond between the two of you wanting to have these children, where you're not having an emotional bond with the other person, with the male or the female, the mother or the father. You like you say, it's, and this is, I don't want this to sound wrong, but because it's not a business transaction, but it is a business transaction. It's not a romantic transaction.
Yeah, but I mean, people make babies all the time, and it's not a romantic transaction.
No, they're called accidents.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's just like my sister, when my sister was pregnant with my nieces or my nephews, I was so excited for her, and I love those children, but I feel like the cool aunt,
mm,
and it's the same way, with these babies. I'm so excited because they do become your friends. I mean, even, some people carry for their friends or their family
yeah,
members. In my terms, I became friends with these people. We were having, videos and lunches and dinners and, talking for, a whole year up until the point we had the baby. So I'm so
because
excited for
but
them to
that's what I think. That's what I'm trying to explain. Is it's a deliberate act,
have.
and because it kind of is a deliberate act, that's the mindset you go in with.
Yeah.
Because I kind of get that. Yeah, no, I'm not attached to the child because it's a like I'm really trying to be sensitive, but I'm like it's like ordering a takeaway. It doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Because yeah, like you say, you meet these people and there's an agreement in place. So
Mhm.
everything you do is if the knowledge is you're doing it for somebody else. It's not about you at all.
Yeah. And I mean, too, it helps, it's not like we sign up and it's the very first couple that says, oh, I want her. And we just immediately start. Our beliefs and different things that we're wanting are aligned, our personalities. So you have, what's called a match call, just,
Yeah,
like this. We're on Zoom and we're chit-chatting, just seeing if we're going to be the same, if we're wanting the same things. Parents that want a big connection and to talk all the time won't match with a surrogate that kind of only wants to be pretty much left alone and given, once a month updates. Majority of parents, do want that kind of connection and do kind of experience everything as their own pregnancy.
so at what point, so you given birth, at what point do you sort of, is there a set period of time by okay that they have to have the baby by this time?
So you mean just to deliver?
Well, because once the baby's born, there's a period of time where you need to recover,
Yeah.
and but the baby needs immediate attention. So where's how does the transition happen
Yeah. So
of the parents getting the baby?
So if the parents are, of course, right there in the room, normally we share the room, the labor room, normally for about an hour or two. But once baby is born, they count as their own patient. So they're usually given their own room in a hospital in the mother and baby ward, and I have my separate room. And they get their baby within seconds to
Yeah.
minutes of giving birth. We can end up going room to room visiting each other. But if I need attention or baby needs attention, we get our own separate rooms and immediate attention either way.
This is just I'm like I'm still just amazed at where we are in society.
Agree.
And you mentioned before we started recording about breastfeeding. So does that follow with the child? I mean, how does I was about to say how does that work, but I think we all know how breastfeeding works. But
Well, breast milk is agreed upon with the parents, when you first chat, and then of course throughout the pregnancy. Some parents would like a surrogate to pump. Some don't want it at all and switch directly to formula. Some parents, are on a really good page where they even agree sometimes to do directly to the breast at the hospital just for, the ease of colostrum and everything.
yeah,
Some surrogates don't want to pump at all or just are not comfortable with it. And, we do have, donation pages or different, surrogates can donate as well. Even for myself, I breastfed all four of my kiddos. So there's even separate pages for just local moms to be able to donate milk to either NICU babies or G-tube babies. I've donated as much as I can throughout the years because, breast milk is amazing.
so do you breastfeed the surrogate babies?
So the first one that was born in 2018, I did only while in the hospital, and then they did switch to formula. So I just pumped and donated to other children after that. The second surrogacy baby, that was the interesting time of COVID. So that was actually one of the cases that was really rare, that the parents were actually stuck in China. So we were going to pump, and they asked me the day of delivery if I would just mind breastfeeding, since we had agreed that I would be the one to watch the baby at the time, since we didn't know how long the whole COVID shutdown thing was happening. So, I did breastfeed him actually for 4.5 months before everything kind of got opened back up and they can finally come and meet their son. And then this recent one, who was just born in July of last year, I only pumped and everything and gave them colostrum for the hospital.
So the second one, you had the baby for 4.5 months?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely wasn't expected.
No. Yeah, this is... So how does... Like, are you allowed to say... Like, what... I mean, I take it the parents come from all over the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they do. We've got parents, France, Peru, China, Australia. They do come from everywhere, just because the U.S. is, well, very friendly when it comes to surrogacy.
Yeah. And I assume typically, would you say that... I guess it's just always people that aren't able to have children on their own.
Yeah, so it's either, moms that can't carry, or sometimes, couples don't find each other, of course, till they're older, so they didn't really have the option, or, eggs, they might have egg donations. And then, of course, there's the LGBTQ community. So, I mean, we have so many reasons that parents, just need a little extra help.
Yeah. And how did you get into it?
So, as I said, for myself, it was, the education side was completely, my parents just sharing that with me. But the surrogacy world in general, it was actually just a little hearsay. My husband retired from the military, and we knew, as I said, we were done with our kiddos. And so finally, I just started researching different agencies and knowing I wanted to at least do, my first journey. And just as I was on the journey, I learning so much about it, it was where I wanted to be. So I immediately started actually working for the agency at the time. And, the first delivery, it was amazing. And I kind of decided to do a little bit of both, getting to help out parents and surrogates and share the knowledge and education from agency side, but also still continuing to get pregnant. Why not?
Why not? You're definitely talking to the wrong man about why not. I've never had kids and I'm 50, so to me it's like, why? But I do, because I have a niece and nephew, so I do understand it. I just like I said, it's so again, this is, and I'm making an assumption now that you must be paid for this because you obviously can't work while you're pregnant.
Why can't you work while being pregnant?
Oh, sorry. Well, I would just assume that if I was paying somebody to be pregnant for me, I wouldn't want them doing anything to put themselves at risk. But that's why I'm saying it's like not having any knowledge can make me very naive about the subject.
That's why I like that you asked. So, of course, there is compensation. It does range, of course, by your location, and, it can range anywhere from, $30K, the barest minimum from like years ago, to anywhere to $75K, just depending on, the matches that you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's not including even just IVF costs. I mean, sadly, it does cost a lot for parents that, trying to do this, but at the same time, surrogates, you can still work just like you would with your own pregnancies, of course, following your OB's recommendations and everything. And, of course, towards the time of delivery, most surrogates end up going off of work for restriction of activities or bed rest, but you just go about your normal life. I mean, you're pregnant and you're not as focused on this delivery because you're not shopping for baby items and everything. So it goes by really quickly.
Yeah, no, I don't want it. Because I don't want it to sound like it's for the money, and I don't want it to sound crude. But there must be unless it's a voluntary service, there must be a compensation for being pregnant for somebody. Just like, sperm donation, egg donation, people, they don't tend to do it for money, because you tend to do it because, like you say, like I remember years ago, it must to be, I'm 50 now, so it has to be at least 25 years ago, there used to be a company in London called Men Not Included. It was for the lesbian community, and I used to donate sperm to them. All right.
Oh.
And that was like, I think £50 a time, but I didn't do it for the money. I did it because the reason I did it was because I used to be what was called a volunteer appropriate adult, and appropriate adults in the UK are people that go to police stations when people with mental health or children under 18 but are not in social services have been detained in a police station for interview, and they don't have an appropriate guardian that could come out for them, i.e. like a parent. So someone like me would represent them as an appropriate adult. And during that time, I realised by the sheer volume of children that would come through the police station, and you would speak to their parents who clearly did not give a monkeys about them and didn't care where they ended up, that I was very clear in my understanding that it doesn't take a man and a woman to be a good parent. It just takes somebody that's prepared to love a child. So then, in line with that, I seen an advert, I think probably in the Evening Standard or something in London, and they were like looking for males who would donate sperm. So it's like, yeah, all children need two parents that will love them and raise them as their own. And but like I said, the compensation for that was £50, but I didn't do it for the money.
Yeah, and that's what it really is. And no matter what price I say, I mean, you can end up taking whatever cost that we're given as surrogates, but dividing it between 10, 11, sometimes 12 months, or even longer of a journey if the transfer doesn't take right away and you don't get pregnant. I mean, you're doing so much for your body. That's why I've told surrogates, no matter what you're getting, paid or compensated. Especially we do have, people that are just, oh, it must be so nice to make so much. No, divide that between an entire 24-hour period of your body doing a job,
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There is everything, so the compensation is really pennies. But
I think what I was trying to get at is it, if you were to do surrogacy for a year, like, because it's a kind of 9-month term, mm-hmm. If you didn't want to work, would there be enough compensation that you don't need to work? I'm not saying you can go out and buy Prada handbags every month, but what I mean is, because if somebody says, look, I don't mind being pregnant, but I don't want to go and work in a factory 40 hours a week at the same time, is it something where they could say, I don't need to do that job this year? Or is it like, no, you're still going to have to work?
So, of course, we always look at, honestly, your family and your lifestyle. We don't want it to be something that you can really live off of, because, I mean, imagine if it turns out it is somebody who ends up, spending too much. Imagine trying to tell the parents, hey, sorry, I don't have the money for rent and I'm going to be on the street.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, trying to look at their family, and, even for myself, I remained working because I wanted to. But we do have, surrogates that are, turn into stay-at-home moms for the year because their husbands already.
Yes, so that's probably a better way of putting it. If somebody can afford to be a stay-at-home mum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
exactly. Maybe you're financially, stable, and that's completely fine.
Because that's the thing that has to probably be one of the hardest things for the agency is finding suitable mothers. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people that actually want to do it, but even just, their pregnancy history or, their lifestyle, sadly, it's not the right time for them.
Yeah. So,
I mean, you can throw a stone and find somebody with, infertility issues or, that can't have a baby, but trying to find the actual surrogates who are financially stable, mentally stable, and willing to even do it is really hard.
So you have to be physically able. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say legally stable.
Yeah.
Financially stable. do you have to be kind of in a steady relationship, married or single?
Yeah, you can be single.
Yeah.
Of course, we just don't try and move forward with you if you're currently divorcing.
No.
Just the legality of the
Yeah.
paperwork. So,
So legally
yeah,
stable became a good saying, actually, didn't it? That was
yeah.
yeah. No, because I'm now trying to sort of like, if I was going down the road of, okay, I want to have a child, what would I want to know, and what would, because these are the things that if you're an agency you have to anticipate ahead of time.
Yeah.
You have to know these, you have to have all of these answers in advance. So it's kind of, what is the screening process?
So actually, that's a good point too. There's a lot of wonderful agencies out there. Even for my own, we do have like a free consultation for parents. So even if you're coming in just zero knowledge, blank slate, just wanting to know about the process or even where you should get started with, finding your own IVF clinic and, talking to them about embryo creation and everything. So you can kind of get that knowledge a little bit, prior to jumping straight in and just going, hey, I'm doing a surrogacy journey.
Yeah. So the other side of surrogacy is, and I'm thinking, you have to be obviously a healthy woman to be able to do this. So that, am I right? And I could be wrong, so I apologise if I am. Everybody has to be pre-menopause?
Yeah, so you don't require the use, of course, of our eggs. So, it just depends on your levels and, still making sure you're within that age range. We do have clinics that do accept up to, 41, 42, sometimes a little older as well. As long as you've had a recent pregnancy and, you are, like you said, healthy, it's completely possible. But we do have surrogates that also, have had their tubes tied or, we just need the uterus.
Yeah, no, but I did, because it's the learning for me. This is a learning curve, because I've actually done podcasts with I've done 3 podcasts on the menopause. 2 of them was with a menopause therapist, so I kind of understand the for women the menopause can, for some it's 20, for some it's 50. Did you know what I mean? It's not a set thing, and some people have a really easy menopause, barely notice it happens. Other people have an incredibly difficult, terrible time, and there doesn't seem to be a scientific consensus as to why. So, if somebody, so because it's only you need the uterus, does somebody still have to be pre-menopause to be able to be pregnant? Because I'm asking that because I don't know, I no idea on the biology.
So honestly, that is a really good question. I'm not 100% sure on, the scientific reasoning or anything from my side personally, but I know that, we try and look for, of course, those surrogates that are the premenopausal, just making sure that they do, are able to still produce, of course, those hormone levels and everything needed.
Yeah, because that's probably the thing, isn't it? It's like that, like making sure you're fit and healthy is actually a hormonal thing. Making sure you're kind of at that you're most efficient hormonally, because of when you're on that journey of pregnancy, what that can do to the body and what the baby needs.
Yeah, because too, with even when you're cycling and beginning, we do have clinics that even go off of your natural ovulation in order to know when to place the baby in. So they'll end up looking at your hormone levels and making sure you're getting close to that peak of ovulation. So that way, when we do, set kind of like a trigger of injections or, the medication to then, stop the ovulation or let it naturally happen, to know when to place the embryo inside is really, really important.
So, talk me through the process. So, I've applied to become a surrogate. Right? I passed the. I take it you fill in an application form, and then is there an interview process?
Yeah, so we have actually a two-step application process. One is just kind of a couple minutes, generalized, a couple questions about yourself. And if you pass that, of course, meaning like you haven't had a max pregnancy, we've got clinics that accept, up to 8 pregnancies. There's a lot of clinics that only accept, 5 or 6, so it just depends. But if you pass the barest minimum qualifications, then of course you get accepted into the whole application, which can take a little bit to fill out because it's more in depth of your pregnancy histories and things like that. And then actually our intake team will set up kind of like this, a Zoom call, kind of chatting with you, asking you questions, talking with you about surrogacy, kind of what's expected throughout the journey, because you do also need to have kind of an open timeline since it is going specifically off of your hormone levels in your body, so for people that, cannot have a morning appointment whatsoever, that'd be a little difficult because a lot of times clinics need same day results, and, you've got to kind of be open. But, we begin collecting medical records and, sending those to clinics to be reviewed to make sure, you meet their criteria. As I said, every IVF clinic is different. So we've got some that, will only accept 5, 6 pregnancies. And, we've got some that accept, 30 to 32 BMI. It just depends on what kind of parents you match with and what clinic accepts your records for you to know kind of where you're going to be, going to get pregnant. But you only go there twice anyway, because, we do, of course, drug testing, STD testing, and making sure you're accepted by your OB, so you're kind of cleared. There's psychological evaluations, making sure, you're okay, as well as the parents. But as far as the clinics, they do a medical screening on your body prior to you actually doing contracts and everything with intended parents. So they'll already look at your uterus and do, saline sonohystogram to kind of see if your uterus is beautiful. It's always the funniest one because you never picture hearing a doctor say your insides look beautiful as a compliment. So,
No.
But it's good to know, so that way that you are somebody who is even your insides look ready to carry a baby.
So, ready to carry. What happens? So it's a stringent kind of application. And you've been accepted, so you're now like kind of ready to, as you said, ready to carry. What happens next?
Yeah, so once you've gone to that medical screening and kind of gotten the okay from the doctors that your body, there's no scarring, there's no fibroids, there's no issues that you shouldn't be able to carry, then you start actually the contract. So the contract phases, you each have your own attorney. It's just drawing up the paperwork and the legalities. We've talked about the compensation and matching and everything else already. So normally it's a very smooth process. Everyone's just excited to get moving forward. But, by state law and everything, we need the paperwork done. But once that's completed, then the real fun honestly begins, because that is when the clinic ends up, talking with you about where you're at with your cycle and getting what's called our calendar set up. So that has all the different appointments you go to, gearing your body ready for the pregnancy. And then finally, when you go back to the clinic again to actually physically get pregnant.
Okay, so you've gone through, so before you can become physically pregnant, they have to monitor your cycle, check all of that goes through them, and the menstrual cycle, that it's all beautiful inside, and you then, I'm guessing then the embryo is impregnated with the sperm, and that's done somewhere.
Yeah, so the IVF clinic that you match with, they normally go through the embryo creation process prior, so you can either do a more natural cycle. Of course, we recommend doing all the testing and everything on the embryos, so majority of them are usually frozen. So when the surrogate has started doing her medications for a few weeks and going to some local appointments, making sure her lining is getting thicker and thicker, which means that it's, creating kind of the happy room for baby. The thicker your lining is, the more ready you are to
Yeah.
accept the embryo. So after you've done that for a few weeks and they've kind of given confirmation that you're around where that embryo should be, you would go back to the clinic. They would defrost the embryo, usually within a 24-hour period. And then they would just put the embryo right inside. And, we get to, fingers crossed, it sticks. Because scientifically, we're putting the surrogate's body exactly where it needs to be for how far along that embryo is. And with all the testing and the grading that they do with the embryos, there's no reason it shouldn't take. But of course, we're not gods or anything, so we can't exactly force it to take. But we can at least create the really great environment for it to be accepted.
So when the embryo is defrosted, there's the initial, did you say the initial process of growth, and this is earlier when we were talking, is 17 days?
So it's around a 19-day period.
19 days. So,
so they'll actually, create the embryo. And of course, I'm not...
No, but just kind of like roughly in layman's terms.
Yeah, from my own knowledge, they create the embryo. They watch it, they do all the different testing on it and everything. And, when it gets to be around the 5-day, blastocyst, that's when everything gets frozen. So that way, when they defrost it, it is kind of around where your body would naturally have then 19 days to create that 5-day blastocyst.
So they start the process and then freeze it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so some babies have been frozen for years. I mean, even the very first surrogacy journey that I did, he's actually turning 6 next week. And, it was so wild to me because he had already been frozen for 5-6 years at that point. And that's how old, my second child was. So her walking around and me pregnant with this baby, it was mind blowing to me.
Okay, so my brain is trying to catch up with that. So technically, the child is 12. So they don't defrost, start the process, and then 19 days later, it's injected. It's actually the embryo's defrosted, impregnated, and then frozen again.
Yeah, because they need to do the genetic testing and everything on it. So, they create it, they get everything ready, they grade it. And then after all the testing is done, they freeze it until it's about time. Because, once it's been, defrosted, then you have to use it. So that's why they always end up, reaching out to the parents, making sure, which embryo they want to use. If they want to, of course, they try and go with the best graded ones first. But with the science nowadays too, you usually can have the testing back if you're transferring a boy or a girl, and you can make the decision. So,
right. So I guess if it's you would get as you as a surrogate mother, how much notice do you get once you've been accepted?
So. Accepted meaning
so once you know, like because so you've gone through the application, you and the parents have met each other, everybody's like, yeah, this is good, you're the uterus we want, and it's a lovely space inside, everyone's confirmed that, so at that point I take it it's just like, let's start the process. It's just like within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you're going to have a surrogacy.
Yeah. So normally, of course, from the very beginning, it's a few months because you do have to match first, getting your medical records, go to that medical clearance, and then do contracts. So it is a couple months,
right.
But you started the journey, you're progressing. Mm-hmm. But the actual pregnancy itself, once you've done those contracts. We get what, as I said, called the calendar. That calendar is usually, just within a month, here are the dates that you're going to your appointments. Here is the date you're getting pregnant. Here's the date for your pregnancy test.
Yeah. And then it's funny, isn't it? Because I guess after that, nature just takes its own course.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can usually test, we've had surrogates, even myself that, 3 days after you get pregnated, you can take an at-home urine test and have positives, as soon as 3 days. I mean, realistically, we say, between day, 5 and 8 after you've gotten pregnant. That's like the sweet point to taking an at-home test. But, you can kind of see and get a little hint if things are going good. We don't say put all your eggs in one basket, of course, because, positive tests don't mean it's, developing correctly. That's why we have to wait for the actual, HCG lab results themselves to show like a healthy rise, meaning everything's doing as it should. But at least the urine tests are fun to at least get a hint of things are progressing as they should.
So, what was I about to ask next? So, does it have? I'm guessing because this is an evolving sort of technology and science all the time. Does it have a high success rate?
Yeah. So, the clinics that we work with, they're all over the United States, and they do have their own secret little methods and great success rates, of course. Majority of the time, if we say if the first one doesn't stick, the second one will, because scientifically, we're putting everything where it should be. So the rate is really, really good, and we just need to kind of wait for the right one.
When you say wait for the right one, how do you mean?
Oh, I mean, like we chatted about, just because we put the embryo in, we're not gods. We can't make
no, for sure.
Will become the baby, but if all the grading is good on the embryos and the surrogate, her body is exactly where it should be, then it's just depending on which embryo is going to be the one that's supposed to turn into the baby.
So, how many? If there is a number, there might not be. It's like have you been successful off the first one every time?
No. So with my very first journey, the first one did take and turned into a completely healthy baby boy. The second one, the parents had actually already, gone through, I think, 2 embryos with a different surrogate, and she ended up not moving forward. Then I went through 1 transfer myself, and it did not take, and they only had 1 embryo left.
No pressure.
And that was and this was their last embryo to be an actual genetic relation to them, because she did not have any more eggs. So it was not what I expected, and the pressure was definitely on. But sure enough, he was meant to be here because ended up taking, and the third journey I did took right away once again. And honestly, I just went through a failed transfer last month, so now we're gearing up to hopefully do it a second time, and fingers crossed that it's the right one.
Okay. Yeah. So my next question is going to be a bit random. Wardrobes. So, if you've been pregnant every year for the last 3 years, 4 years?
I was going to say a lot.
Okay, and I'm going to be gentle about this, but there's an expansion that goes on every time.
Yeah.
So, how's the wardrobe looking?
The wardrobe is very good. So, I can say, my own children, it was 2012, 13, 14, and 15. We ended up having 4 within 4 years, which wasn't expected, but with my husband in the military and him coming home, I guess it was just the way it was supposed to happen.
People are pleased to see each other when absence makes the heart grow fonder.
But, and then for the surrogacies, it was 2018, 2020, and then 2023. So a little more gap just because of how long the surrogacy process does take, and giving my body a little bit time to heal, because unlike my own that I can do back to back, when it comes to surrogacy, of course, we're trying to make sure it's safe for myself and other surrogates. And if you've delivered vaginally, then usually there's about a 6 to 9 month wait, minimum for the clinics themselves, just for you to even get pregnant again. And then for C-sections, it's usually a year or more, just making sure that, you are healing and, it's not going to put your life in danger. But
because I don't think people realise this. I've talked about this on previous episodes. If you go back, I think it's only something like 100 years. 1 in 20 women died during childbirth.
Yeah.
And now, if you're dependent on where you live in the world, it's like in the West, it's like rare, just really, really rare. But doesn't kind of take away from the fact it can be dangerous. Things can get complicated. So it's an incredible endeavor to take on for somebody else, because you know, potentially
because there's dangers too.
Yeah, no, there are.
And we chat very in depth and make sure that the surrogates are understanding the same thing. You know, there is risks that you cannot carry again, so we always recommend you being done with your own family. You know, just in case something does happen where, you know, you lose an ovary or your, you know, uterus, or, you know, something happens where you can't have a baby again. But there is also life insurance policies and long-term riders that get put in place in the beginning. So if God forbid, you know, it is something that does happen to you from this process, at least, you know, you can take solace at least that your family is going to be taken care of, and the parents are, you know, recouping some of that back as well for themselves. But you know, thankfully, you know, in the years I've been doing this, you know, I have not seen anyone that has, you know.
No, I mean, I know, I can't remember what the statistics are, but I know it's really, really rare in the
Thankfully, yeah.
Anywhere in Europe, the US, Europe, anywhere like that, like really, really, really rare. But it is, the life insurance policy makes a really good point, because the process of giving life is still a business. And it must be an incredible kind of delicate path to tread, where you're trying to give a couple the opportunity to have a family. But guys, it's a business, and it's not an economical business. And there's lots of factors, because until you mentioned it, yeah, of course, if you're going to take this risk with somebody, like you say, if it goes wrong for me, that's me, you know, I'm being buried. So of course there has to be, again, compensation. And it sounds horrible when you say that, because we want it to be all nice, but it is on the black and white side of it's business, and there's legalities, there's contracts, and things have to be put in place to protect all sides.
Exactly. I mean, even from the life insurance policy, of course, you know, 99% of it goes to the surrogate and her family if anything, God forbid, were to happen. But there is a portion that also goes back to the parents, kind of recouping the little, you know, costs that they've had to pay out.
But that's what I mean. Is
the parents at the same time, you know, are doing loans, you know, loans and more, you know, second mortgages and everything. So at least, you know, kind of both parties are okay if something were to happen. But we can't create a new person. You know, this is somebody's, you know, wife, somebody's daughter, someone's mom, you know. So we try and make sure. Yeah,
because I don't know. I honestly don't know the numbers, but I hear numbers about IVF being like £100,000. You know,
I was going to say, I know we usually estimate, you know, try and have at least, you know, 150, you know, grand just to do the entire process, even with the clinics and the medications. I mean, it's all just sadly so costly.
Yeah, but that's, you know, like I said, that's, you know, that's the business side, which is the research that went into it to get to where we are today. You know, and it's kind of like, you can't kind of have it all ways. You can't have probably some of the most advanced medical science that right at the top of the mountain, right at the peak, and not expect it to be you have to pay for it. But like you say, the insurance policy again is, yeah, if you've probably spent $200,000 and unfortunately somebody dies, yes, you do want your money back. You're sorry, but hey, hang on, I've forked out $200,000.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we want to make sure the surrogate's safe, her family is reassured. At the same time, the parents still, you know, some of them save up their entire lives to do a surrogacy journey, you know, to be able to afford having their babies. So, you know, we want to make sure at least they get to recoup that to go on and attempt to try again, or, you know, whatever they just moving forward.
I've just kind of, I'm thinking about things I've heard, you know, with sister friends and stuff, because you said you enjoy pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't often hear that.
Oh yeah, there's such a spectrum of pregnancy. You know, there's the people ones that absolutely hate it. I mean, I can say, you know, it's not like, you know, I'm some miracle person. There's certain things about pregnancy. You know, I hate morning sickness. I hate swollen feet, but the process itself of just the kicks and the growing of life and everything, I can kind of put the little things that I don't like aside, because the birth in general, and knowing, seeing these parents, crying, holding their baby, knowing that's going to be someone's great 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 grandfather, one day, and that's a whole family line
Yeah,
that's
no, it is.
changing. It's too amazing for me to give up. So I'll do some morning sickness. I'll do all the terrible things.
Because I take it, do you get the mood swings, the
Oh
cravings?
yeah. Oh yeah, all of it.
Do you get this? Have you had the same cravings every time, or is it always different?
Oh no, completely different. So I can debuff a little thing too about the boys versus girls, because they always kind of say like the girl's the one with the morning sickness, the boys are the ones that like sour things. Every pregnancy is different. I've had 4 girls and 3 boys now, and I can say every single one of them I've carried different. The boys usually have that cute boy bump in the front. The girls kind of make you a little thicker. And nope, I've the last girl I carried was the cute little bump in front. That was not like any of the other girls I've carried. The cravings have been completely different for each. I've craved hot sauce continuously with some of the girls, and some of the boys, all I wanted was chocolate milk or lemon juice. Like every single craving is so different. It's really wild. Some things you absolutely hate, you will end up loving during pregnancy, and some of it goes back to normal, and some of it your taste buds are forever changed.
Yeah, that's just mad, isn't it? And so, where was I thinking? I just got caught up in the cravings when you said hot sauce. I was just like, it's going to be that random. Something I wanted to go back to, if you don't mind, is people's reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you get people who, or have you had much experience, hopefully not too much, where they just are disgusted?
Yes, I honestly have. I've had some that are just very mean, assuming like it's done for the money. And then some are, sometimes a little more religious and think it's, completely against, beliefs, which is okay too. I'm not here to change anybody's mind, just educate. There is some people that just really don't agree with surrogacy, being a thing, and that's fine. Everyone can have their own opinions, but majority of the time we get the good reactions. We get the amazing ones where people are just mind blown and want to know all about it, since a lot of people just aren't educated. And kids, I can say the darndest things, especially if you're walking around, trying to educate your own children and, about surrogacy, especially if you're pregnant with someone's child, can be a lot of fun. One of my favorite stories, honestly, was during my first surrogacy journey. My kids were all just little toddlers at the time. And I went into Home Depot for just a can of paint. That's all I wanted. I wanted to get in, get out. I had 4 toddlers with me. I wanted the quickest trip possible. And this man, he was very sweet. He saw the big belly, he saw the 4 toddlers in the cart, and of course walked up and just, oh, congratulations. And, I'm just, okay, thank you. He's like, boy or girl? I'm like, okay, he wants some small talk. It's okay. I said, oh, it's a boy. And didn't really want to divulge much else. I wanted to get out of there. And he decides to turn and just go, to my daughter. And, oh, you must be so excited for your baby brother. And of course, her being a toddler at the time, decided to very bluntly just say, Mommy said it's not daddy's. It's not my brother. It's coming out with black hair, and we're sending it to China. And it turned into an hour-and-a-half long conversation with this man about surrogacy, because he was so terrified, and just he turned like ghost white. And it turned in, to the long in-depth conversation, because I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not at all what was expected. And she threw me under the bus.
I think that's brilliant. That's exactly what I'd like to hear.
Smart mouths on kids.
It's not my daddy's. It's going to have black hair, and mummy's sending it to China.
Yeah. I mean, all 4 of my kiddos are little blondies. So it was so funny, because, of course, just trying to educate them, being little, I was like, this isn't daddy and mommy's baby, this is this family's baby, and, they live over there in China, and, they were asking, oh, it's going to look like, the sisters, or, look like him. And no, it's not. I
can just imagine the kids in the playground or at school. Mummy sent another baby off.
Yes.
The
And
postman dropped it off this morning.
yeah, each time it just got better and better, because I wouldn't tell them, of course, because there is also the scare of the first trimester. You want to make sure you get out of that first trimester because of the chance of loss. And, I don't want to have to keep explaining failed transfers to kiddos who were so small at the time. But, as my kids, got older and they would just kind of see the growing belly and like, we're not bringing this one home, right? I'm like, no. And they're like, okay, good. Like, that's all they wanted to know, that there's enough of them, as long as I'm not bringing it home, which was the funny instance with the COVID baby, because I told them no, and then we brought home the baby.
Oh, wow. I can just imagine. My head is spinning with things that kids would say.
Oh, yeah. It's not only the kids, though. Your husbands can throw you under the bus, too. I can say it as well. So another instance, of course, you wonder where my kids get their smart mouth from. It was actually that same first baby, the one that we were sending to China. So the dad ended up going downstairs and was working on getting the car seat and asked me if I'd watch the baby at the time. And so, of course, I said yes. So I'm sitting in the hospital holding the baby, and they actually had shift change. So this brand new nurse walks in without even looking at my chart or anything that says surrogacy. She looks at me, she goes, "Oh, congratulations, everybody." She looks down at the baby, looks at my husband, once again, big blonde guy and baby with black hair, clearly an Asian child. And, he just
Someone's been playing away from home.
Yeah, he just immediately put his head down. "It's Asian." And I'm like, "Don't you do this to this woman." I said, "No, I'm a surrogate. Look at my paperwork." Because once again, this lady was just looked at me absolutely petrified for my husband. I'm like, you don't do these things to people. But, it also was a funny moment, too, because she got a really good laugh at it afterwards. But yeah, he's got a smart mouth on him. Yes, he does. So your spouse tend to have a lot of fun with it, too. Even just walking throughout the store, the people will come up to you saying congratulations. And just for the husbands to go, "Oh, thanks, but it's not mine." And then the surrogates chime in, "Oh, it's not mine either." Just the confusion of people, it can be a lot of fun.
Are you ever tempted to just put your finger over the lips and go, "Shh, don't tell the police," and then walk off?
Oh my goodness, no, not that rough, not that rough.
You have to. You have to. Next time you say, "Look, it's not ours. Shh, don't tell the police," and just walk away.
Now, see, you always get the funny comments, though, not even with surrogacy, but just all the people there. "You know how that happens, don't you?" No, tell me. Like, will you tell me? I know we're in the middle of Publix or Walmart. Can you explain it to me? Because it does keep happening. All the people that just want to really, talk about, "Oh, you have a lot of kids. Are you, of course we had our 3 girls first, and then we had a boy." My husband wanted, honestly, to round it off with all girls. He hadn't seen girls in his, lineage for generations. Like, they were so shocked that we kept having girls. And so everyone would, of course, assume, like, "Oh, you just keep trying for that boy. You just keep trying for that boy." No, actually, we weren't. We were just enjoying having our children, having a family. And that's even with surrogacy. You can choose the gender, but some parents don't. Some just do it like a regular gender reveal and let the doctors kind of make their choice on what they think they should transfer.
I'm getting conscious of time, so I just want to ask you a couple more questions, if I may.
Okay.
You said at the beginning it was something your mum said to you that made you realise you wanted to be a surrogate. What was that?
Well, honestly, I was young, so it's more or less the birds and the bees. But she did try and shove in a little bit of education, about that some people can't have babies, and that's okay too. There is, some people can carry a baby for you. There's adoption, and just kind of giving all the options, because I was what's called a rainbow baby, a baby after a loss. So she had my brother and my sister, and then she had her own loss. And she honestly, since she hadn't experienced it before, and it was back in the day, she did say that she didn't know if she'd be able to carry another healthy pregnancy, considering she's never gone through it before. And so, I was her little rainbow baby. And so when it came to just the education process, it was letting me know, like, it's okay. It turns out you can't carry, or you don't want kids, or, you want to adopt or foster. And that was something that just really stuck with me as a kid, that we are in that era of that's science. Like, that's mind blowing that you can be pregnant with someone's child that's not related to you at all.
It is, though. It is like, it's a testament to how far we've come as a society, that we are able to give life, I suppose, for want of a better term, but certainly providing the best chance for life. And for people out there who want to be parents that couldn't previously, just if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, there's nothing you can do. Now actually there are options. It can happen. And I honestly think it's really, really amazing, and I can't even begin to can't really understand it. But a huge amount of respect to you and your husband, because what you're giving to other people is just phenomenal. Because it's cliched, but the way that people talk about their kids and parents and things like that. But for somebody that, for a couple that, if they're not able to have a child, and this is a way for them to have one, and the fact that you can facilitate that, I think it's just amazing, and just incredibly, I don't know, generous. I don't know the words, but to put yourself forward to provide it, because ultimately there's no benefit to you. It's just a gift to somebody else.
Yeah, of course, it's always one of those things where people like you say nice things like that and everything, and it's so, I guess I want to say awkward. It's one of those weird things where you don't want to say thank you or anything for it, because
I know what you mean. Yeah,
if you have the chance to help somebody, I mean, why not? Whether it be pregnancy or just helping people in general. I think everyone has to have that caring, giving heart, and to be doing this or just helping anyone with anything else in their lives.
But it's like you said there, that conversation that your mum had with you all those years ago, no pun intended, but it's kind of when the seed was planted, and it's kind of evolved as you were probably always going to do this.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine lots of people do it for lots of different reasons. But I think just be able to without getting too sort of cliched about it, to be able to give that gift of life for somebody else, and to do it like you say, it gets a bit awkward because it's kind of falls into that. Well, yeah, but I can.
Yeah, exactly. And if the doctors will keep approving me, I'll keep trying, because it's something, if my body will allow it.
Yes. So is there an end game for you?
I'm hoping, honestly, to retire after this next one, just because 8 will be a lot, and most clinics, that is already a lot.
Yeah. Did you mind me asking? Yeah. Do you mind me asking? Are you under 40 or over 40?
Under 40. I'm 31.
31. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah, that's a lot of pregnancies.
Yeah, my husband and I, we got married very, very early, and we knew we wanted our family. We wanted to be able to ride roller coasters and everything, as the kids were still at good ages. We're great ages to retire and everything. So that's why I was like, if I can still be pregnant around that prime area, then happy to do so. If I'm still enjoying the pregnancies, if this next one I attempt, doesn't go well, or, as long as the healthy baby arrives, then, I'm fine with retiring.
It's interesting because you were saying that. I was thinking about my, so I'm half Irish. My mum is Irish and my dad is English. And on my mother's side, as you can imagine, good Irish Catholics, we did the family tree. And on one side, it's on my nan's side of the family, must be her grandmother had 20 children. All of them, if I remember correctly, all but one survived. Do you know what I mean? And because there was this funny kind of family connection where we went to visit my nan's uncle, who was younger than my nan. Because, do you know, yeah, do you know what I mean? Because literally, her grandparents, I guess they got married when they were 18, started having babies, and didn't stop until she was probably just didn't stop until they couldn't have children anymore.
Oh yeah.
But she was effectively pregnant almost every year.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of families do it. Even at the time, I wanted 6 kids when I was younger until I had our 4, and we're okay. I think 4's enough,
Yeah.
especially within 4 years. We were like, that's probably enough.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we can provide everything for them and everything. But no, even when it comes to my own pregnancies, I could definitely have 10 more children. If my body is still in good shape and I'm able to, I could. But that's when it comes to also the IVF clinics, because they, of course, would try and do what's safest for you. So they do have a cap of pregnancies. They do have, a BMI limit. They do have, all these different things just to make sure that not only do their statistics stay well and their, success rates, but also making sure that you and the child are as safe as possible.
No, that's good. If somebody wants to find out more, where should they look this up?
So you can, of course, look up our agency, Surrogate First, and there's links to a lot of just interviews, consults, and everything. You can reach out to me via email, Karina, Karina, @surrogatefirst.com,
Okay.
and answer any kind of questions anyone has, or if they just want to know a little bit more.
I will look that up and make sure the link is in the description. My apologies, I'm typing that into the notes on my phone so I don't forget.
No worries, I appreciate it.
Karina. Okay, so, and lastly, this is the most random question you'll probably ever get asked. And it's nothing related to anything we've talked about. I just like to ask the question. If you can imagine it's a magical world, whatever, and you have a time machine, where would you go back in time? Why would you go there? What car would you drive? And what music would you be listening to?
Oh, goodness.
Told you it wasn't related to anything we discussed.
See, but I am such a live in the moment person. So, I've been asked a million times, would I go back and change anything or go back?
No, you don't have. It can just be a random moment in history. It doesn't have to be your history. It doesn't, but so you'll be amazed how many people have no interest in going back in history.
Oh goodness, I guess I'm going to have a terrible answer. I wouldn't really have a specific time in history I guess I'd go to.
No, but sometimes people are just like, no, I love the moment. I love where I am.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a much more popular answer than you would realise.
Yeah, I wouldn't really. If anything, I'd just say probably I'd try and travel more than what I did.
Yeah. So
not to so much change things, but like I want to go to like Scotland. I want to visit China. I want to do a lot more in my life.
No, but okay. So yeah, so you'd travel. What car would you drive? No unlimited budget. Obviously, it'd probably be something big for a big family car. And what music would you be listening to?
I'd be listening to Prince.
Yeah, we like a bit of Prince.
To Prince. Vehicle, maybe a convertible. I don't know. I'm not big on vehicles. It doesn't really matter as long as it's a good drive. Go through the mountains somewhere, get a good breeze.
That'll be fine. That's absolutely perfect. Thank you very much.
Of course. I love that one.
And that's Karina. And the journey, I guess, of being a surrogate mother, how it happens, what they go through. Is, as she said, it is a process. It's a journey. I'm still mesmerised. I genuinely am, not just by the ability of Karina to be able to give herself and her body to somebody else with that. That is, for me, a tremendous act of kindness. And also the science, the medical science behind it that allows this to happen. It's just phenomenal. And if you want to know more, please do check out the links in the description. And for everybody that watches, likes, shares, subscribes, as always, I really do appreciate the support. And wherever you're from, whatever you believe, please do take care and be blessed. Thank you.